All right, it's patch 13.20. Meaningless one for me, I'm going to be honest, but I'll put this one out for you. This is the patch that lets people play on not worlds, which drives me absolutely nuts. I wish I could boycott this. I wish we could choose to play on 13.19. Everyone in World Champion, all eyes are on Worlds. Why can't we play on Worlds patches? I despise that they put this out. Please comment if you agree. Put the hashtag riot please, RIOTPLS. Just riot please, guys. I want to play on the patch that Worlds is played on. I want to play like the World Champions. I want to play how they do it. I want to see this and actually let us play for a while. And I really despise that they make a pattern of doing this. I know why they do. They say half the player base likes Worlds and half the player base doesn't care. And for the half of the player base that likes Worlds, they can watch Worlds and they're going to be really excited. And for the half of the player base that doesn't like Worlds, they don't want to see the same 15 champions in their games over and over. So we're going to change it to make them happy, and that way both sides can be happy. But I'm not happy. I need to play on this patch too. I don't like it. I really despise it. You know, I'm going to rant on it about it for a little bit. I think it's merited. I want people to go, and the future of the game, you need to have eyes on the world stage, and that makes people want to live up to their superstars and want to play, and they want to do the things that they do. So they want to play the same champions on the same patches and come back. I don't know. I really despise it. So anyways, let's get into it. Jax is getting a visual update. First change to Champions Akshan is getting a big move speed nerf to his Q. Now this was an ability that you didn't need to level first. Sometimes you just put 3 points in it for wave clear. Sometimes you just did 1 and you just allowed it for the procs. But basically with this change, you're going to have to max it. This is going to affect the heroic swing nerf. This is a 5 damage nerf, which isn't much except for it's at every hit. And when you look at it at its first rank, 30 to 25 is a 16% nerf, all right? 90 to 85 is only a 6% nerf. So if you were maxing E, you didn't really feel this that much. But now with this Q change where you're basically going to have to max your Q to be able to continue playing the champion the same way as you have, this means that you're going to be sitting on 1 point in E for a much longer time. So this is a huge nerf to Akshan. He definitely has his strengths. He definitely has his weaknesses. This is going to be felt for sure. Bel'Veth, one of our favorite champions, undergoing a pretty big change. Bonus attack speed after spellcast, 25 to 50, scales linear, is now using a stat progression modifier, and it only goes up to 40. So very much you're going to have to use your items. This is going to take away a ton of her early game power. Or E, Royal Maelstrom, is grabbing a new effect. All right, damage from Bel'Veth's E can now critically strike. Huge. Okay, there were some Rageblade effects. There were some Kraken Slayer builds. Kraken Slayer is going to feel this the most, especially when you start looking at something like Navori Clickblades. That's going to give you extra cooldowns on your Q, your W, your E. If it's going to be up more often and you're getting some amplified effects on your crits, great, you're going to love it. Damage reduction, however, taking a huge nerf. 42% at rank 1, really affecting her level 1. Minimum physical damage is getting nerfed by 2 to 6 and then going up by 2% AD. So again, you'll feel this as you're scaling into the game, as you will this, as you're getting your crit strike modifiers. And the minimum on hit damage is going to 8%. Endless Banquet, Remora health. 40, 50, 60 of the minions' health is going 20, 45, 70. So less of those Ziggs, Bel'Veth synergies that I loved. Gonna say this entire strategy probably just got castrated. I'm not gonna lie. Or I should say spade because it's Bel'Veth, I guess. They're taking out tons of her early game power. They're building her into crit strike. She's going to be way more of an end game fantasy one shot, can fight anybody in the game. You're going to take out these windows where you can just take the Remora and push minion waves. This is a tremendous amount of a nerf early. Level 11 will be about the same. You won't feel it. And level 16, they'll be stronger. But at that point, everyone has infinite wave clear anyway. So unless you're empowering it with Baron, and that's what you have, which I guess I should say that is the only way to get the Remora at level 16 is with Baron. So you will feel it. The Baron pushes in the end game will be cataclysmic. You are absolutely going to want to. Everybody on your team should int so that Belveth can get away with this buff, and if she does, then you have a good chance of winning this fight. It also means that Guardian Angel is probably going to be a mandated 4th item so that you can dive into the pit, survive, get the smite, use your R, use your ultimate to get in there. Big splash, revive, doesn't matter. You'll come back with all your effects and you can fight from there. True form out of combat movement speed, again, going down early and up. So everything is being geared towards, taking away her early game, giving her more end game. It's all about that end game fantasy. If that's what you like in the game and you like playing for solo wins, this is going to be a great champion for you. Absolutely going to have to prioritize getting that Baron. So practice your smite steals. Galio, our Galio best from last patch, wasn't as impactful as we had hoped for, which is interesting because we think that Galio is near the top already. The Shield of Durand is getting an extra half second off as you level it up. This is important. There are some matchups where you max your W. Shield out of combat timer is going down to 8 seconds on level 11. All right, so this is when it comes back up. This is important for your shield bash. This is important for being able to counter into mages. This is also specifically very important against Leandri's Anguish, because if they hit you once during the wave, you basically couldn't get it back up until halfway through until the next one. So they poke you once, they poke you again, you never get the shield back for the entirety of laning phase. This will give you more windows. They'll have to hit you 3 times now instead of twice to get the proc off. So this is a big change for Galio. Jinx, everybody's favorite hyper carry, and in time for Arcane 2024, is going to get some buffs for sure. Health growth up to 105. This will help her scaling a little bit. Stacks on stacks, the 25% bonus total attack speed gained from Get Excited. Now stacks. Holy shit. Basically, you're going to have these insane moments where your team comes up, they get 1 kill, great. Rather than refreshing the cooldown and just having it constantly up, it's now going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, which means that she's going to be the pentakill champion. Move over Zeri. She's going to be the new queen of pentas. Cooldown going to 70, 60, 50. 5-second buffs, especially in the early game where this is usually used just to stop backs, just as a tempo play. You see someone recalling somewhere on the map, just throw your ultimate at them. There's not enough damage for you to really ever get kills with this ability until you have more significant lockdown and you start looking at Baron pits and stuff like that. So getting an extra 5 seconds is going to help a lot. Minimum damage, you see a lot of equations here. Going up 2.5 damage plus 1.5 bonus percent AD. And the execute's the same. So getting a very minuscule damage total amount. And the maximum damage is now going all the way up to 25 more. Yeah, it looks like 25. All right. Big buffs for Jinx. She's going to be the pentakill champion. She's almost strong enough as it was. This is going to make for some hilarious compositional play in this. I don't expect this to survive through to the next pro season because basically, we don't even need to talk about pro because none of these changes are going to happen in pro, and we're about to have a massive preseason. So if you like pentakills, go for Jinx. Basically, I have to take a pretty casual rundown on this entire patch note because, again, this is just for the more casual players. They don't care about pro. They don't. At least the way Riot says it, these are the people that don't care at all about Worlds. They just want to play more casually, and so here are the champions. Largely geared towards them. Cassante, we could do an entire video on it. So let's slow down for a second and read everything. I'll even take a sip of my coffee while I say good morning, gorgeous. Timestamp good morning, gorgeous. Put in the comments, let me know you've gotten this far. Cassante has been suffering in average play due to needing balance him around pro since launch. Once mastered, he leaves little room for reaction and his opponents will often find themselves dead while being stunned the whole time. Correct. After all, it doesn't matter how good Showmaker is if Cassante can hit confirm his whole combo via instant cast spell. Yep. Meanwhile, most players won't even know what that means. So what that means, instant cast spells that hit immediately, right? There's no cast time, so there's no reaction. It doesn't matter if you can react, you can't flash away. And specifically, The W into the Q3 into the ult is the big perpetrator here. When you have Q3 stacked up and ready to go, you dash onto them, you use your W, that displaces them plus stuns them, which gives you enough time to get Q3, which knocks them over your head. You turn around, you ult them back in whatever direction you're trying to go, either into your team or back into your turret or over a wall to isolate. And basically, there is no window to beat that without significant amounts of tenacity. Now, tenacity is good against Cassante. All of his abilities have mini stuns, but they also have displacements. So you have this like, yes, it works. No, it doesn't work. You have tiny windows where the tenacity can do things for you. And this is what they're talking about. That's in pro, where you can like maybe utilize those tiny windows, and the players on 0 ping, mind you, can make sure that they lock you down. Hit, auto, hit, canceling every animation, making sure that you're taking full rotations of spells, sometimes even circling back and getting 6 versions of Q hit onto you before you can even make a reaction. Or I should say 4. Q3, you get Q1. The next cycle of Qs is already available, and the next W is available during that all-out animation. So that's what they're talking about there. Hopefully that makes sense. As we said, most players won't know what this means, and this patch is geared towards those most players. The changes here broadly serve 2 goals. The first is to slow down the beginning of Cassante's combos. Pathmaker has a minimum channel time, and he cannot flash during Q3. Okay, very important for both of these. Both of these changes will allow skilled players to outplay his incoming combos, which was difficult to do before. However, if these more difficult skill shots land, Cassante can combo his abilities together just as before. Second goal aims to give Cassante stronger overall abilities now that his counterplay has been improved. This means much stronger stuns and damage. So they're probably going to give back all of the effects that they took away from the W, for example, as well as distance and shielding on the E. This is what I'm guessing. This means much stronger stuns and damage from W, plus more reliable upsides from all out. All right, base health going down by 40. This is a huge hit to lane phase. This is 1 less auto attack to dead. Health growth going up by 7, which means that by level 6, you've already gained it back. Armor growth already going up. So by level 6, where you have all out, he's a stronger champion. Man, there's a lot of abilities here. Passive, Dauntless Instinct, all out bonus, 35% is now just 35. They had scaling on his bonus armor and magic resistance. Now that is a huge nerf. So basically he gains no more scaling from building his tanky items. Good. It's not describing everything. He's still getting 85% of your stats is coming into the AD. They didn't touch that. That was something that got patched in, I believe, 13.12. But no more of this extra 20 per 100 magic resistances. This was especially noticed when you had Gargoyle Stoneplate, when they focused you, right? And you just got all those extra stats. You're sitting on 400 armor, 400 magic resist. I've got 800 stacks. I'm going to turn that into a tremendous amount of AD or bonus damage, right? 160% extra bonus damage was asinine. So we're going to have fewer one-shots. And Tofo strikes. Not so flash. Recasting Cassante's 3rd Q will now disable flash during its windup. So this is the smash part of it. You can no longer reposition or get yourself onto the other side for an immediate knockback on the ultimate. Stat check. Shift tooltip now shows your progress on the armor, MR, and HP for cooldown and cast time. That's good. I'm glad they did that. Physical damage. 50 going down to a base 20. Oh my goodness. All right. The 40% AD and the 30% bonus armor, 30% bonus magic resistance is all staying the same. So these are all flat amounts. Lowering it by 20 early is tremendous because you're often hitting 2 to 3 of these every 15 seconds, right? So we're talking about per level, and especially to get from level 1 to 2, there's 6 casts of your Q. That's 120 less damage that you deal at level 1. This is a tremendous nerf. I thought they said they were making the abilities stronger. Let's see. What are they giving back to Pathmaker then? Mana cost going down by 15. All right. He doesn't really have mana cost, so this isn't really going to be that important. Minimum channel time 0.65. Maximum channel time is unchanged at 1 second. So no more instant casts. Okay, yeah, this is what they didn't want. They didn't want E into W to just be like, let me just hold you in place just a little bit longer so I can Q3 you. This is forcing you now to have a channel to get people. It means that you need to get some sort of stun to set this up. This is enough. Dude, they are gutting this champion. Is what it feels like. At least all of the mechanical things you can do. I can't imagine that they're going to put enough power in the kit to make this worth it. This also means that you don't have instant speed W's when you're an all out, which is a huge difference. Maximum damage. Pathmaker's damage, crowd control, dash distance, and all other outputs will no longer be tied to the ability's charge time. Okay, so you're always getting maximum. But sometimes you didn't want this. Sometimes you just wanted the minimum. You didn't want to go out of position. So this, while generally going to be a buff, is going to be sometimes a nerf because you're going to push yourself so far into enemy territory. You also might be pushing yourself far enough away where your Q3 only puts them back to where your starting position was, where their starting position was, and you may not be able to maneuver them the way that you need. Damage reduction. Is going up significantly base, but is taking away the scaling. 1% per 100 health. All right, so this will be a buff for the laning phase. Tremendous buff for the laning phase, but nerfed for the end game. Talking about 4 items plus. Stun duration went up to half a second. Let's see, this was based on channel time. You're basically getting the full effect all the time. All right, so this is where they gave some of the power back. All right, so without comboing someone into place, you can now just walk into range of them, hold your W, aim it, hit them, and they will be stunned for 1.25 seconds, which will be more than enough time to get your Q3 to knock them over. So they did give a tremendous amount of power back here. The fact that it doesn't matter how long you've channeled, it's going to be at minimum, like we said, 2/3 of a second based on the change here, but you're always going to have this full 1.25. This is a tremendous buff. So this will be a large part when you're working on your combos. Absolutely work on this. Damage. They are taking out the maximum health scaling. Good. Okay. Great. No longer making him so he's good against everything. Now, 20, 40, 60, plus 50% of total AD with 30% bonus armor, 30% bonus magic resist, and targets mag. Whew. Okay, wait a second. Wow. Wait. All right, so this was a full scale, if you charge it the whole time. So basically, across the board, it's going to be stronger. Only at level 1 on full channel, where you could have full channeled, you can now get it on a 2/3 of a second channel. You're going to get the full effect, but basically that is the only effect. You're going to get a target's maximum health damage here, plus you're getting a base amount, plus you're getting total AD, plus you have scaling right here. This ability is going to be broken. All right, like I said, they would need to put tons of power into an ability to make this worth it. This W ability is cracked. This thing is so good. Wow. So if you're playing Cassante, it's going to be all about this W. Now, the big question is whether or not you need to max it. The answer is most likely no, because this number does not go up. The cooldown, the cooldown does not shrink. Well, you know what? We should check, because just because it's not in the patch notes doesn't mean that they didn't sneak it in, or that it's not just there, because they don't like to put all the information in the patch notes sometimes. Just take out. All right, no, we do have Pathmaker cooldowns. All right, and it's big. You only get one of these. The fact that you get maximum effect, essentially maximum effect at 1 rank, but the fact that the cooldown is 24 seconds is going to be the gating factor. Ooh, that's going to be tough. Let's read the rest of the abilities before we make a proclamation on that. but as far as scaling the rest of the abilities, only up by 20. You basically don't care. This is non-scale. This is indifferent. This is indifferent. This is indifferent. This is basically indifferent. This is indifferent. So you're really just looking at that 2-second change in the scaling on whether or not you want the W. That said, it's such a good ability, but we'll continue reading to see. Pathmaker all out version. Minimum channel time is now half. Pathmaker's damage, crowd control, dash distance, they all deal the maximum corresponding values. Okay, like we said, damage reduction, 30%. And now 50 to 75. And it's just based on champion level. Again, this will only truly be noticed, but this is all out. So this is the bonus armor and all the bonus magic resistance. You're getting these effects into your AD. So you're losing all that, and you're basically just getting scaling based on champion level. Again, this will be nerfed for the hyper late game. But again, this ability is not going to really care about that. It's just so strong. While all out, Pathmaker will no longer deal extra damage aside from the bonus AD provided upon entering all out. Makes sense. Cooldown's also shrinking significantly. All right, so the all out version is going to have a better cast time. Basically, if you have like 60 haste, and we're looking at like a 7-second on this cast, you can potentially get a second cast off on an extended fight. Damage on initial cast is going up by 35 plus an AP ratio. Weird. Okay. 35, 40, 45 plus AP. You're never building AP, so I don't think this is going to matter. This is for like those weird cases where you get a staff of flowing water. Damage on a successful wall slam, going up by, going down by 80, down by 140, down by 200. Yeah, assume that it had this also, and they just forgot to list this, and also has an AP ratio. Again, don't care. This is a tremendous difference, again, aimed at like the hyper levels of elite play where they are very good at targeting this, making those micro movements to ensure that you hit. But now it's harder to do and less good when you do. Attack resets. Attack reset timing has been slowed down to match his base form. I wish they had put the numbers here. All out of stacks. Casting all out will now reset current stacks. Oh, okay, so you can't go into Q3 directly from the ultimate. So if you did happen to just catch someone, you can't just stack a Q3 into permanent knockup time. Bonus attack damage gain. The 5 is going up tremendously. The bonus armor is going down by 7%. Bonus magic resist down by 7%. So you will feel this at 100 HP, but you'll have that extra rank. So at 100 resistances, which is basically on your first mythic, basically every item completion, you're going to feel this slightly less, but okay, interesting. Healing 10% is now going 10, 15, 20 on healing on all damage versus champions. So no longer Omnivamp. You can't just Q3 into the minion wave and go back up to 55% health. Now you have to do it to champions. That said, the raw number is going up. The bonus health, you were normally at around 800. So you're looking at about 8% extra damage. So, I mean, late game, this is pretty much pathing along that same path, but you have to do it to champions. But it's not considering as Omnivamp. I don't know if this will affect. Omnivamp is affected on a 1/3 scale by AoE abilities, which is basically all of his abilities. So if it's all damage to champions and it's not being negated, then you're actually going to heal significantly more on your champion damage. But the fact that you can't heal off on the minions is going to be in effect. Weights are off. Cassante now gains 25, 35, 40% bonus attack speed when all out. This makes the attack timers cleaner. It's also because they said earlier that they're getting rid of the attack resetting. Basically, they mentioned that they want everything to have a little bit more of an animation, so they can't afford to have that at Pro. If you could have auto queue, just every single thing could be animation canceled. They're giving back some attack speed so that you don't feel it at lower levels. Let's take this into effect. Look at the abilities. Static cooldown based on bonus resistances. The damage is only going up by 30. No other effects are going up. The cost is still 15. There are no effects. So you are only going to put 1 point into Q. Let's look at the E next, because the W is the big one that we're going to check out. Cost goes up by 5. Cooldown goes down by half a second. The speed, this has got to be, based on different things. Ally dash range, okay. The shield strength is only by 20, so you're basically only getting a half second on the cooldown and 20, so you really don't want to be maxing this. That leaves W as the absolute. You absolutely want to max this ability. It has nothing to do with this and has everything to do with this. The Q, you are casting multiple times, so I mean this 30 damage does add up. It's going to be close. It may even be matchup dependent. And it may even be one of those abilities where you take 3 times for lane, but it's really going to depend on how much these new numbers go for lane states, whether or not you're going to be able to full clear with Balmy Cinder compared to Iceborne Gauntlet. But I'm going to go out on a limb right now, suggesting that probably W is the max, because you want to have 4 ranks of it at level 7, so that you can have extra access to doing it twice per wave. So you have more chances at turning on your all out. If you only have 1 rank, you're only going to get 1 shot, and you'll get 1 shot per minion wave. If you can do it even this much faster, it might surprise people who are only expecting it to come out every 24 seconds. B, you get to take more shots, which means that you get to score more goals. Wayne Gretzky would be proud. And perhaps most importantly, when you're all out, having access to a second cast in one of your fights, because this ability is just stupid good on how much damage it deals, and the fact that it locks people down for that long. 1.25 seconds is tremendous. Whew, we made it through Cassante. Okay, Kaisa took a huge hit with static shift changes, and yet she didn't, because one of the other builds you could do was to build lethality. And it sort of went under and by the wayside, but people didn't realize if you just buy Umbral Glaive plus Serrated Dirk, that is your Q upgrade, and you're doing it for the same amount of money, or just a little bit more money than you were spending on your Mythic anyways, to have a Q evolved sometimes as early as like level 7, right? 11 minutes into the game when you were getting your Mythic. Instead, you can have an evolved Q with 25 lethality. That's significant, all right? That is a big chunk. So people have adapted. They've moved over. Do not build Static Shiv anymore on this champion. As far as what this change will do, it's going to exacerbate some of her laning weaknesses. Losing 3 armor is pretty significant. This means in all trades and all ins, she's going to be taking about 20 more damage per trade cycle. 2 different trade cycles or an all-in. We're looking at 2 champions. This could be 40 damage. This is going to be felt. She's already fairly weak to champions like Draven. Draven is going to eat this change alive and absolutely going to be going past this. I still recommend to get Zhonya's at some point in your build. You don't necessarily need to get the full AD scaling. And between the AP that you get from Ginsu's Rageblade, which is great once you have Umbral Glaive, Collector, Ginsu's Rageblade, Zhonya's, that's my recommended build for Kaisa right now. Between the AP that you get for the Rageblade and the AP that you get from Zhonya's, you're going to have that 100 for the Evolve, and then you'll have the attack speed from your Boots and Rageblade to be able to proc. Here you can even go something like Kraken Slayer. You might even go Blade of the Rune King for some matchup dependent spots, but I think that's largely going to be matchup dependent where you choose that other item, but most times it's going to be Umbral Glaive, Serrated Dirk, Rageblade. Then you can finish Collector, or you can go for Zhonya's, depending on where you're scoping out, and then you'll pick that last item. Usually some amount of penetration, something like Lord Dom. So even though she deals a lot of magic damage, maybe you get to split up and go into other builds, especially like Phantom Dancer is an item that doesn't get built enough. There's plenty of options. Runon's Hurricane as well for the on-hit. Milio has been needing some love again because of pro distinct level of play. Burn damage dealt by allies. Now procs his items. Huh. Cooldown is decreased. Base shield strength is increased. Our healing aid. So big buffs right here. I still expect that he might see some play, but it's worth checking this out. On fire. Burn damage now counts as Milio's damage, even when applied through allies. Oh, so this is important. You used to be able to buff your teammate and they could get kills, just like Pix would deal as their champion. Now it's counting as Milio's, allowing it to interact with select number of items like Chemtech Putrefier. Burn damage. I wonder if they'll do this with Pix. Burn damage will still grant the ally who applied the buff the kill. Okay, preventing Milio from accidentally confirming kills. Warm Hugs. Cooldown down by a second. Fantastic. Shield strength going up not early but late by 20. Okay, so more reasons to go put points into E. Campfire is still the best ability. All the abilities have reason to level up right now. Very rare that you want points in the queue, although there is a tremendous amount of scaling there that you can put points into queue into diving matchups where you need to self-peel and you want to deal some damage back. But most of the times it's going to be your Campfire and Warm Hugs. Breath of Life, healing is staying the same, but you're getting an extra 20% AP. This will help his late game. So nice buffs from Milio. Should make him more exciting because this champion, you don't really get to cast many spells over the course of the game. The cooldowns are so long. The build is definitely going to be cooldown at all stages. Largely, it's going to be Ardent Sensor so that they can use the on-hit, get the extra effects from the Campfire. You're going to want Ardent Sensor. You're going to want sometimes third item Chemtech Putrefier. But you're going to want to look for those buffs, something like Shurelya's as well, so that your team can pick the fight when it's time, and it's just pick that time really well. That's the important thing for Milio. Morgana has been a little bit weak recently. Let's see what the changes are. WAP ratio increased. Magic damage per second is staying the same, but with 3% extra AP. This is important because they took away her ability to one-shot minion waves, and this 3%, I don't think it's as much as what they took away back in the day, but I believe with Dematerializer used on 2 melees and a cannon, you should be able to one-shot the melees here, but we'll see. We'll test it out. Monster damage modifier going up by 10%. Interesting. They want to give her opportunity. This doesn't necessarily need to mean that you need to play her in the jungle, even though she is okay in that role. This is more for solo lane Morgana when you go off and you're like, okay, I've got nothing to do. Let me clear Raptors. And it's pretty easy to clear the entire camp. Black Shield, losing 2 points. So again, when you're playing support Morgana, you only put 1 point in the W and you can put points into the shield. So this is a nerf to her support build. Soul Shackles, bonus move speed, 5%. Not just towards the tethered, but in all directions, so you can kite, move around, going 5% in all directions. This is a very big effect. Stun duration going up to 2 seconds is fantastic. This means that you're going to get the full duration of your W. It even means that you're going to have enough time between this and the root to get second cast of your W onto someone, which we just saw has a higher AP ratio. And this is per tick, guys, or per second, I should say. So you're going to feel this. This is really... If we're looking at all the time that they're locked down, we should have them for about 4 seconds. So we should have 5 ticks of this spell. This is really a 15% AP bonus, which full combo with 400 AP should be about 600 extra, 660, 60 extra damage coming from this spell, which is significant. Magic damage, also gaining 25 plus 10%. This will still hit twice. Okay, so this is really plus 50 damage. All right. No ifs, and, or buts about it. Our all-time winningest mid lane champion is coming back. This was our Smurf climbing champion, the easiest champion to play to pick up the game. If you want to learn how to play mid lane, pick Morgana. Go minion dematerializer, grab the stopwatch, perfectly timed stopwatch, and just max W and just melt waves, roam, come in. If they ever dive you, press ultimate, walk into them, W on top of their face right as it's about to proc, auto attack Q, auto attack second W, walk away. The combos are really, really easy. The roams are really, really easy. It's so easy to play this champion. If you want to pick up mid and you don't want to go through classes and doing it, I totally welcome. Everyone can go gigagamingacademy.com/coaching if you want to try coaching, and we can show it to you firsthand. But trust me, this game, it'll only take you 5 games to pick up what to do with Morgana. The most important thing, limit test your R. Go in and see what it's like to just flash R. Jump on top of people, cast it, move around in the middle of them, see if you can dodge a skill shot and get that full extent of the damage so that you can get the rest of your combo out. These are very meaningful changes. Quicken. Base health decreased. Let's see. Base health down by 38. She didn't have... So her level 1 was not great. She is ranged. She can do all the things that ranged champions do. But as we mentioned on the stream earlier about the champions like Juggernauts that have Nimbus Cloak, Ghost, Ignite, Flash, whatever it is, getting on top of you, this is going to make you more susceptible. Also, move speed going down by 5 means you can have a little bit less kiting. They are compensating by giving back some growth. This is a nerf, all right? This is going to affect her ability to one-shot people in the end game. You're going to have an extra 5 AD, which is going to turn into an extra 15 damage across your abilities, plus some auto attacks. That's going to add up. So you're going to 40 more damage on your combo, but you're giving up move speed, which means you're not going to have as much access. Your percent increases are going to be worse. This is a nerf. And I wonder what the reasons for this. We made base changes to Quinn 13-17 after we identified she was getting incredibly squishy due to build changes after the mid-season update. We tried to compensate for some increased mid-game durability with some base damage nerfs. She ended up stronger overall, which wasn't our goal. Yeah, that makes sense. This needed to be a nerf. This patch, we're taking a more holistic look at the champion with 2 goals, nerfing her on average and granting her better gameplay for her and her opponents. Okay, yeah, I think that accomplishes that. W cooldown increased. Zed has been near the top of mid lane, maxing extra points in your W. Sometimes, this was tech into a lot of Zed mains knew that you wanted 2 points in your W, specifically just to have access to more combos, right? And you also got the refunds with haste and with hitting your spells. So this is going to be felt for sure. I don't know that they're going to want the 2nd point for this. To get the same effect, you're going to need a 3rd point, which means that now you're giving up an extra point in your E. I mean, it's definitely a nerf, that's for sure. You're going to live longer without full uptime, and you're absolutely going to feel this in endgame fights where you may not have access to that 2nd W. So you have to be very, very careful as you play Zed in the end game. Ziggs buff. All right, well, Bel'Veth got nerfed for the early game. Ziggs got buffed, but in the end game, they'll both be stronger. The explosion hitbox is up. This is a huge buff for mid lane. Bot lane as well, but bot lane was a little bit more forgiving because you just kind of wanted to push the wave. You just hit Q on the wave and tried to splash it off the enemy champions. Having this extra hitbox means you can actually edge it a little bit more, and in bot lane you never really had a problem hitting Q, but now you can more reliably hit the Q on whoever you want. But in mid lane, where it was much harder to hit them and the wave, or choose to just hit your Q, it's very easy to dodge this spell at the highest levels, unless your name was Shifter, and this guy's a Ziggs genius. This is going to be felt. This extra 30 range is a big difference for people like me that are slow on the uptake on the clicks. And if you're like that as well, you're absolutely going to feel this. But most importantly, think of this as a 60 range increase, because now their champion needs to be 60 range away, or a total of, let's see, how do we put it? The thing has a radius of like 60. It used to hit 150 and then 150. So you're looking at 360 range away from the minions. They'd be safe. But now 60 range plus 180 plus 180, now they have to be 420 away. Now you can tap, not only can you tap the edge of the last caster minion, but you can even move it over an extra 30 range, which is like a couple pixels. You move it over a little bit, and then it will also splash over a little bit. So you're getting double that effect when you're using this properly to push. And this will allow it to be easier for wave clearing. You'll be able to clump up your minions a little bit easier and Q. This is actually a pretty big buff, all right? This is not going to be thought of very much, but this is a pretty substantial buff for how Ziggs ends up playing out. Love to see it. Absolutely going to try to play some Ziggs. It's very interesting because they've been trying to move a lot of other mages back into mid lane, especially the support mages. You saw Zyra get some jungle buffs. Again, not necessarily meant for just jungle Zyra, although she grew a fantastic role. there, but also you could play her mid with the ability to now go into a side wave, push a side wave, pick up a camp for free because she had so much extra damage effect on the camps. They're giving bonuses back to this. We'll see if Vel'Koz ever gets his buffs. I know there was a big Twitter beef that ended up coming out, or X beef that came out, where someone ranted about basically Vel'Koz is effed. Was the summary that they gave to it. Whew, champions done. Items. Lightning Jewel. 150 buff. Okay, great. This item was not very strong, and it was very strong when it was great, but a lot of people were buying it second as a preemptive buy, knowing that MR items were coming, and it never felt good to do that. So I like that they're giving it a 150 nod. This is also a nod to all mages in general. They're trying to give mages some love, clearly. You can see the patterns on these buffs. Absolutely a good change for them. Duskblade of Drakthar has been one of the biggest problems ever since they gave it that new passive. Ability haste is going down by 5. Damage amplification is getting reduced by 2%. Good. I don't like this item. I think they made it too good at taking away counterplay from assassins. The whole point of assassins was there had to be skill at getting out. Now you basically don't need skill. You get a kill and then you're invulnerable for a second and a half, and then you can get out in that second and a half. This is still going to be a problem. I hope they get rid of this item. It's still strong at doing what it does. Every nerf is going to be warranted because it changes the functionality of the champions and how they work. So if you're in a game where you need to be able to get in and get out, Duskblade's your item, regardless of stats. Lord Dom's regards. This is very interesting because these items are just like so good. They like put so much ability. They gave them all 3 abilities, right? They're all very strong. The current damage amplification from LDR's passive was calculated as pre-application, meaning it triggered after things like shields and lifesteal. In this patch, we'll be moving into pre-mitigation, which should be more intuitive to how players think about it, of course, and use the item. Since this will result in a power increase, we're proactively giving it a small nerf to avoid overpowering it. What is the nerf? 0 to 25 is becoming 0 to 22, scaling with the maximum health of the more maximum health than the user. Okay, fair. I like this. This is going to be a buff in general. This is still a buff, right? Because doing it pre-mitigation and application, you're getting these effects before all of the resistances are applied, right? I assume that's what they're talking about. Pre-application, meaning it triggered after things like shields and I guess just shields. Okay. I guess this is not talking about versus resistances. I'm unsure. I don't trust their patch notes to know exactly if they mean this with resistances as well. If this is triggering and you're getting higher damage pre-resistance and you're going to get more effects from things like shields and lifesteals from proccing this, especially when you talk about overheal and things like that, then absolutely that's going to be a buff. But this 3% nerf should make it. It's tough to say with what this is. I'm not sure. I am absolutely not sure. Now applies before shields. All right, so they say it twice. So I think it's just before shields and lifesteal are calculated. So it should be a net small nerf, but this is going to be tiny. And basically, in the moments where you're getting these shields and lifesteal, you're still going to like that effect. Yumu's Ghostblade isn't pulling its weight for assassins. So the Spectral Lethality Shard, this is the base before the ramp up. Or no, Spectral Shard, this is the ramp up. 3 to 12 is becoming 7 to 18. This is huge. The raw amount of lethality that you can get, it's still felt a little bit more in the later game as you get to this 18 number compared to when you get it first, which is about level 7. You're only getting the 7 amount. For lethality, though, it's still nice. You're going to like this. I would rather that they aimed more assassin play towards things like Yumu's, where it's I need to apply the move speed and then still have skill to get in, compared to Duskblade, which is to just have a free exit. So I'd rather see like really precise usage of this. It is an overall buff. Duskblade's getting nerfed. Definitely recommend that you try using this, especially for champions like Talon that really just want to get into that perfect position before they start the fight. It's also worth checking out on a champion like Briar. Prowler's Claw is already known to be very good. And if you go Youmuu's, then maybe you can go Black Cleaver, which synergizes really well with lethality. And then you could just go Guardian Angel and make that your tanky item. Absolutely worth checking out right there. Jungle adjustments. Smite. Damage to champions and pets. 40 at all levels, making it much easier to use. Good. I don't know why they kept this when they tried to flatline everything else, that there wouldn't need to be a lot of discrepancy, and especially when jungle gets filled. Now these days, bot is by far the most filled line, so you have more people queuing jungle and knowing what jungle does. So you have fewer of the jungle diff games coming out, but it's nice that they're just making this flat. Close only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and epic smites. Smite now has 350 units of targeting forgiveness against epic monsters. This means if your cursor is near their model but not on top of another valid target, it will act as though you are targeting them. Good. Good. So you basically need to have it on top of the champion if you want it to be on the champion. Otherwise, it will smite. This will make it harder, though, in those moments where someone's diving in and getting right on top of the dragon and you're trying to aim between the two. You better hit that champion right on the head if you want to hit the champion. Damage type is going from spell to proc. This means it will no longer trigger on spell effects like, oh, good. It should never have hit spell. This feels like, I mean, this is a nerf, tremendous. Especially, like, I don't think Demonic Embrace is good enough to ever play. There's very rare situations, we just saw it in that BDS game, where you have super long range carries and you're like, okay, Maokai, Demonic Embrace, we're never looking to fight. I'm just going to toss these out there. And if you guys want to take the burn damage, great. In that game, I even would have gone Landry's because you're very much just not looking for the fight. But they go Demonic because they want to be able to build the Radiant Virtue. Primal Smite, AoE damage when smiting monsters, is now going to deal 100%. You're basically going to burst camps. Not that you have any issue with killing raptors in the end game anyways, but this is going to one-shot the entire camp essentially. Jungle Companion upgrades. Man, this is turning into a longer patch than we wanted. Our goal with these changes are to trim some hard to appreciate or simply overpowered aspects of the avatar upgrades. For example, most players haven't noticed the epic monster damage reduction. Well, we super noticed it on release. When you started this, you could solo Baron on basically any jungler at level 20 or at 20 minutes into the game. You were evolved, you could basically go up and it wouldn't kill you. You could just sit there and sustain more with the jungle than the thing would hit you. Moss Stomper's tenacity made it too hard to disengage from enemy junglers. Right, because you couldn't stun them. And Gustwalker's move spade made it too easy for enemy junglers to... I mean, I don't say that, I wouldn't call it these underappreciated. This is exactly the choice that you're making as you play the game and you're like choosing between blue and green. That said, it was blue or green. Red did not exist. Red was so rarely picked because you didn't have instances where you wanted to like just deal that like chip damage and get out. Very few cases, even something like Maokai, when you're in a game where you just wanted the saplings, you still wouldn't want the red because it was more important to have that extra speed to find the pick that you wanted later. We'll keep an item for jungle item balance after this patch to ensure that each of the pets still has a viable place on the roster. Junglers and with Primal Smite no longer take 20% less damage. Okay, this is something, oh yeah, okay, great, good. This is a big difference though for the ability. This is something people did not appreciate for a long time, which was enemy team is showing bot side, go take Baron. That was free this entire year. It was most free at the beginning, and then they made it less free, and then they made it more free. But now it's not free. Now you actually have to have a comp that can kill it. It's still a window for a play that you should take advantage of, but not having this 20% mitigation, especially when you had that extra shield from the tenacity one, means that you could just tank up the buffs super easily, especially some of the carry ones. Gustwalker, while in brush, gained 45 decaying over 2 seconds after leaving. Killing a large monster increases this effect to 60% for 2 seconds. While in a brush, no, all right, we're changing this. While in a brush, gain 30%, so we're losing 15, And we're losing 15 for the kill. That's a tremendous nerf. The Moss Stomper shield is going up. Makes sense. No longer... Oh, what? It no longer grants the user tenacity or slow resistance? Gone. Get it out. Never use it. You just never want this. You would always want the speed over the shield because the speed will allow you to dodge spells. This is a huge change. It also means that you're going to have to ride tenacity in your rune page if you were a jungler that wanted tenacity. One of the big things that this allowed for is you could go with the attack speed rune, legend alacrity. You could use a legend alacrity even on champions like a Mumu, because if you were in the green, you were using the green Moss Stomper, you would gain tenacity. You don't need to get these redundant forms of tenacity. You could put it in your runes to deal more damage. Now that's gone. That's a big deal. When would you ever want the green one? Maybe some shield bash champions, maybe Jarvan, but Jarvan is probably still going to want the move speed from the blue, so you can find that engage coming out of the move speed, or coming out of with move speed. Yeah, I'm finding it tough to want to have this green one ever. I don't think you're going to want it. There's if they are there, it's going to be few and far between. If you find a good use for this, leave it in the comments. Scorch Claw damage type requirement. It used to be any damage, now attacks and spells. This means smite will no longer trigger it. Well, that's because you're not making a spell anymore. Okay, that means that you can just walk up and smite someone and get the 5% extra burn, but it does mean that my favorite and really only two users of these were Karthus and Yorick. Yorick jungle was a split push extraordinaire. Still one of our favorite things to do that's off meta. You just put ads in both the side lanes, and with the red trinket, you allow every time that someone goes and gets hit, they take that extra 5% burn, plus you've got the lethality, plus the comet or the first strike. It was kind of hilarious how much damage that build does in the side lanes to people who try to defend it, especially once you get 11 and 16. This will be a net increase just because the other things are worse. That said, even when red was good on champions like Yorick, you still usually wanted blue just so you could get in and out of bad situations easier. Still most likely that blue is just the best one by a mile, because move speed is the best ability in the game. Oh my goodness, they completely changed the jungle. With these changes, this is a completely different game than what Worlds is on. Gosh, this is... Take a deep breath. Good morning, gorgeous. You made it this far. Let me know in the comments. These changes, we're looking to slightly slow down clears after the first clear, with level 1 and 2 being identical to how they are today. The biggest addition here is that the health now scales past level 11 as champions continue to gain damage, since all other respawning sources of gold, like minions, epic monsters, and champions, all do. Well, also worth noting that 15 minutes into the game, there's one extra cannon per 3 waves, and 25 minutes into the game, there's another extra cannon per wave, which is 100 extra gold. So you're actually getting more benefits even though the waves are getting stronger. Blue and red buff scale harder late game than regular monsters, since they provide twice the number of buffs that they used to. Okay, I like that. The Raptors change will slightly close the gap between area of effect and single target junglers, who typically wait for their pet to clean up the small raptors anyways. Okay, yeah, that's something that you're doing, but all right, we'll see what these values are. We're going to have to play this in game, but man, I hate when they make sweeping changes like this. This is going to be respawns. So basically every third time that you, every second time that you kill a camp, you're going to get the level up. All right, so this is what they do, and they basically will check based on the average level in game as they spawn. That's how you're going to denominate how much health they have. So the fact that they scale up harder, and again, this is from 1 to 11 is now changing from 1 to 18. I imagine 1 to 11 is the same, and they're just adding in another 7 levels worth of scaling. It looks like the math adds up to that. There. Red Brambleback. Base levels are the same. Base levels. Crimson Raptor is now going up by 100 health. This is to... If you hadn't gotten the memo yet, Raptors was basically the start for everybody. It hides your start. Well, it shouldn't hide your start if that's meta. If everyone's on Raptors, they shouldn't just know you're a meta, that you're on Raptors. But you don't need leashes. Instead, you are better off starting Raptors using your one spell like a Maokai Q or a Sejuani W that just one-shot the whole wave. Then you'd get level 2 and you would do red on level 2, or you could go Grump or Krugs to red. Either way, you're spending more time at level 2, which all in all negated, reduced your clear time. All right. That was a very big effect of how the jungler worked. This extra 100 health is, those are still going to be the cases that you want it, but no longer you can have just Maokai walk up, auto Q, smite the big one, boom, I'm over, I'm level 2, 5 seconds into the game. It looks like those are the cases that they're trying to mitigate with this extra 100 health. This is going to mostly affect tank junglers, but you're still going to want to start here, especially champions like Amumu, like Rammus. You can't quite one-shot the wave anymore with Rammus. I bet you can't do it with Garen either. Darius will probably be pretty close. Darius needed a second Q anyways. So a lot of these off-meta kind of juggernaut champions are going to have a little bit of a tougher time with the camp. This is also going to affect York. But again, we're getting into off-meta champions, but that's what this is aimed for, is for those tanks that were able to just one-shot the camp very quickly. Lee Sin even, just E, boom. Then they all died. Basically, the entire camp would die. Raptors' health is going up later. Again, this looks like it's pretty much ubiquitous. They're not hitting the initial spawns. So you should still be able to get your normal timers, your 245s, your 315s, your 330s, your 345s when you're getting on the map. Those shouldn't change. But this will affect subsequent level ups. It shouldn't. See, your third respawn. This actually will affect some people, especially if they get interrupted in their clear and they have to go for a third camp of something like Raptors. It will get stronger, and if they haven't hit level 6, this will delay some level 6s to be after 8 minutes, especially if you get interrupted or if you have to do a syncopated clear. Monster health scaling formula. For those of you looking to put all these numbers into a spreadsheet, this one's for you. Maybe we'll just listen to Freak on this. It's probably, rather than looking at numbers, we just have to go into the practical effect. Rift Scuttler, health. 1 to 18 linear scaling. This health, oh, this is going way up. Non-linear. Why didn't you give us this number? Can you please just give us this number instead of saying it's non-linear scaling? You're putting in this stuff that is super complex, that is meant for the people that want to min-max, and it's definitely not meant for the people that are casual players. Like this patch, the fact that you're patching like this is not aimed at the same group that these numbers are listed at. So I understand why they didn't put it here, but if you're going to make a change like this and say that you're completely changing whether or not it's linear or non-linear, give us the fucking numbers, dude. All right. Right, please. Krug experience adjustments, 16 to 23. Okay. Any Krug experience is going up. This is very important for your clear. It's even more important now to make sure you get the full camp here. Krug experience also. This is the medium-sized one. So even more important to go after Krugs. Monster attack damage and champion clear health. This lens, basically, it was way too easy to clear the jungle. Even when you're at 10% health, you had increased changes. This is based on what they did in the preseason to make jungle much easier and having fewer people die to minions, which also got them roasted by their teammates, which made them more upset, which made them go into a tunnel and just farm for the rest of the game because they didn't trust anybody. Anyways, those are what they're probably taking a stab at. Monster attack. All right, formula. We're just gonna have to play these out. Champion jungle companion scaling, sustain in the jungle. We'll check this one out. The kill, you're now getting 12% of your missing health. This was multiplied. Okay, so basically low health clearing is still going to be fine. Yeah, we'll see. We'll have to see this in action. Companion radius damage. Come back. All right, make sure you guys come back. We'll do a jungle clear, see how this affects. We'll check out some of the new champions too, how they go through this. Anti-poaching adjustments. Junglers should not feel the following changes, but they should be something laners will feel. Mathematically, camps now have 20% more health for non-junglers, while junglers themselves won't notice a thing unless, of course, they don't buy a jungle item. This means that laners will have to rely on lane minions a bit more than they currently do. This is interesting because this was an effect that they put in, then took out, mitigated, and then put back in. Basically, when they were trying to get more new people into the jungler, making it easier, making the companion was fun, it made they highlighted jungle paths for you. They could tell you what your path was. They made it so it was impossible to die. They made it so you healed tons in the jungle. Basically, all of these effects were made for new players to come into the jungle. It had its effect. You have a lot more new players. But now, as you get more people that are going in and saying, all right, especially now that you have way more perfection on lanes, lane states, you have people like Alois that are showing you exactly where, when, how to mitigate or to match your lanes, how to create crashes, proxy, when to dirty farm, when to go into camps. Now that that's become so solved, it's much easier for those champions to get into the camps, which is a nerf to junglers. That said, in that stage of the game, I don't think junglers should be taking their camps, right? Junglers shouldn't be thinking about farming their camps. So this is kind of going against game flow. Yes, you're making it easier for them. Again, this is aimed towards the bottom 70% of players, maybe the bottom 90% of players, where they thought that they should feel someone poaching their camps. Usually that was good for game flow. You want your laners to get more gold. You just don't have access to enough gold, period. As we mentioned before, the lanes get an extra cannon starting at 15 minutes. They get another extra cannon per 3 waves starting at 25 minutes. So necessarily the amount of gold and experience starts escalating, snowballing for laners. It does not for junglers. I see why they may be trying to normalize this, but usually getting from second item to third item is just not a world where junglers need to exist very often. But this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it so that junglers can go for their third before laners are going for their fourth, really. So all of this is being affected. All of this is extra damage that armor and magic resist. True damages still can be fine into the jungle. That's why they're putting it into play. Lane minion experience adjustment for junglers. This is a huge one, especially because we just did a big video on the Blabber special, which was pathing through mid off of your first clear. Using your first and second clear as a way to path through mid to get prio so that that person could help you out. So we actually are going to take a look at this in depth. Because we're enacting some protection for junglers to have their own camps available, we'll also be implementing some changes to disincentivize junglers from poaching lane minions. We're updating the catch-up experience rules from the minion penalty to match the monster penalty changes from a few patches ago. We're also marking the 20-minute Baron spawn as the more obvious change in game state that alleviates the jungle minion experience rules, as opposed to the less obvious 14-minute. I like that change. While we're here, we've also fixed a bug that locked junglers into the current experience penalty whenever they finished their jungle item. Overall, these changes amount to roughly 8% less minion experience than they give today for the early and mid game. This is impactful. This will potentially affect, I mean, it definitely affects when you hit 6. It's going to potentially change which paths that go through mid. For example, 3 camps into gank mid, into your own side, into do that again was a way to get to level 6. Probably they're targeting that. We'll see if these numbers are significant. The experience penalty, we don't need to do that because we're not down by 3 levels. Minion experience received 40 to 75 is early than 100%. Then it's going 30 to 100. Okay, so it's way more impactful earlier. You're only getting 30% of minion experience. Now, when it's shared, this pool is a little bit different, but we'll have to do the math on this. This 30% early, 0 to 20, 40 to 75. So if this was flat, we're gaining about 2.5, exactly 2.5 per level. This is 70, about 3.5. Okay, 3.5 per level. Where does this catch up? So it's 1. So level 10 is where you're gonna even out, which is about coinciding with that 14-minute mark. Okay, so basically you're going to feel it a little bit longer as well, right? You're from 14 to yeah, this is just a nerf across the board for junglers. You're going to feel this less experience from lane minions. up until about level 10, which is approximately coinciding with the 14-minute mark, which is when you're going to start feeling it again, because that's when you started sharing, but now you're not going to get 100% of that value from 0 to 20. That said, most champions get 91% of the minion XP when they're alone, and they get 70% when they're sharing. So is this going to be 100% of 70%, or are you getting 100% from sharing? I'm not sure. Minion experience penalty is no longer locked in. Obviously, this should never have been the case. Starter item buffs. This is a huge one. All right, let's go in. You can only buy one. All right, you can only have one Doran's item, so no more stacking them for advantage. And they're all getting stronger. 2 and 20. 3 ability power and 20. 20. This is a huge buff for laners and a huge nerf to level 2 and 3 ganks that would normally punish them, because now you're just that much lower statted than those champions. Doran's shield is gaining actually more health than the other ones. Regeneration when damaged 0 to 4 is becoming 0 to 45, so you're getting an extra 5 health. This is based on your missing health, by the way. Maximum is unchanged at 25% remaining health. Okay. Dark Seal, stack friendly. Dark Seal is not unique with other Doran's items, so feel free to pick both up. Good. And health goes up by 10. I don't know why they needed to buff Dark Seal. That item was great. Relic Shield, gaining 20 health. All right. All laners, junglers are getting a huge nerf. Basically, for the past 6 years at least, jungling has been the #1 role for climbing. Apparently they want to change that. The best junglers in the world also represent the best teams at the world championships. Largely the team that is most likely to win is the team that has the best jungler playing the best. We saw an exception to that when Piosik won. Sorry, didn't mean to throw shade, but you know, that guy's not top 10 in the world. He's the first jungler to win. Let's see, in how long that wasn't a top 10 jungler? It's been a while. So anyways, this is going to be a sweeping nerf to junglers in general, because all the laners are getting better. Some will feel it more than others when you have good scaling. For example, someone like a Braum is not going to like this as much because they tend to get this just for the auto attacks and 3 auto attacks. They don't really care about this extra 1 compared to someone that actually has scaling from this effect. It's a tiny amount, but you know, it's small little things. Those little changes can affect the percentages. The big changes, ability powers went up slightly more. That makes sense. Health all 20. Health only 15 on the mage items. Makes sense. Definitely stack your Dark Seal if you can. If you have any amount of AP scaling, grab Dark Seal. Great item. It gives you plenty of effect. Doran's shield looks like it's probably the bit. You know what? The extra health that you gain, this is interesting. The extra 2 damage that you gain is going to be significant. But basically, these changes should make it that you just always want a Doran's item. This is very new player friendly, where it's just very simple. Start with a starter item. That's simple. Hold it. And it also means that you can keep these items for a little bit longer. So we'll see. There's still going to be those matchups where you're going to care about your spike. Do you want it at level 10 or do you want it 10 minutes into the game, or do you want it 12 minutes into the game? Whether or not you spend what tends to equate as 270 gold that you borrow for this item, whether or not you're selling it back for the 180 in the Doran's Blade or the 140s here. That's still going to dictate whether or not you want those early spikes. If you're a Zed, you're still probably going to want longsword so that you can get serrated dirk, but Doran's Blade is now it's pretty significant how much this is. This is also worth mentioning that Doran's shield mid lane is a problem. This is going to be even harder for mages to poke you out, because the 3 AP is not going to be enough to mitigate this 30 extra health. You're never going to get, your combo is never going to be good enough by this amount to make this up. You're basically, that 3 AP is going to be made up by this regen right here. So all of your Doran's shield mid laners are going to basically just get 30 extra health. Water walking is providing a bit too, this was basically the best secondary rune in the game. You basically always wanted it. If you were playing around dragons, which everyone does in 99% of games, you just wanted water walking because the extra stats and the move speed in the river were fantastic. I think it was worth mortgaging everything else you did to be stronger for those fights. I think water walking was way too strong, so I'm glad it's being nerfed, or is it? The adaptive force is going up by 8 early. Huh. And losing 15 move speed. This is a big change. Movement speed is the best ability in the game. This is a probably pretty good change. It still will be worth it for those early game junglers, especially now that you're getting that extra stat. If you're like a Trundle, for example, you absolutely want this because you want to own the river. All right, you want to absolutely take control. So very good for certain supports and certain junglers. If it was good for you before, it's going to be even better for those people that want to take over the jungle. But as far as those people that just wanted water walking just to have the extra movement for the fights, you're probably better off taking Gathering Storm and just accepting the extra 6 stats and then the 20 later. Sometimes you want the Scorch for the lane phase. Snowballing adjustments. Oh my goodness. I thought we were going to have an easy thing because the list of changes on champions was pretty shallow, but this turned out to be a pretty massive patch. Snowballing in League currently happens very quickly, which leads to a large amount of games feeling like they're being decided 15 minutes in. I think they're decided more by people's mood than by actual game script. Yeah, this game's over. We can't win. You know, tell me if you've heard that game before. GG, go next. Get us out. And then one person who decides it's over and plays like it's over and says, no, we're getting out of this game. I refuse to participate. I'm not even going to try to come back. Well, then yes, the game gets snowballed and then they hold their team hostage and people die. I wish they would eradicate that behavior, but instead, okay, maybe by making a patch, they're going to make people feel. I don't think that someone in a bad mood is ever going to remember, oh, wait, but on patch 1320, they said it's a little bit easier to come back into games, so let me fight a little bit more. I don't think so. Maybe they put it in and then say, hey, no, look, keep on fighting. We gave you a patch. We want you to fight. Our primary goal is to decelerate how quickly teams can snowball early leads so that everyone can access other fun parts of the mid to late game, which we believe should have a bigger role in deciding games. How about give us a practice tool where we can actually work on these as well? Chrono Break, hello. These changes will reduce the amount of games that are or feel doomed at 15 minutes and ultimately increase the quality of solo queue games as a result. Good target. Dragon Slayer. Oh my gosh. Are they nerfing all the dragons? They're nerfing all the dragons. Okay. Dragon Soul. All right, they're buffing all the souls. Rift Herald, local gold given. Okay, this is a big one. And this is someone that we were all about. Sack Dragon to go get Herald. This is a big change. The fact that the local gold, you're still going to have 200 total gold. Basically, you had the killer and then you had the local splash gold. So you wanted people to come over and hit, share gold, especially your AD carry, give them the tool, pick it up. This is going to be a hit towards the people that help with Herald by 100 gold. That was most felt. That said, in 95% of levels, all the way from Diamond, included Diamond, all the way down, people were not using Herald fast enough or correctly to really exacerbate this lead, but in Pro they were. This is a big change for Pro. Again, this isn't going to matter though, because Pro's going to not play on this patch, and there's going to be a huge upheaval before then, but it's worth noting. Baron Nashor, it's currently too reliable to take safely and too fast to burst down due to the increased damage and durability in the game. Also, the fact that you can tank it on junglers that had 20% mitigation that don't have it anymore. So that should have already been enough to slot this, but let's check it out. This gives the winning team access to a very decisive objective post 20 minutes, and increasing its health will prevent Baron from being bursted down quickly, making the objectives more contestable for the other team. This is a big change. Why didn't they give us the old health? Come on. So basically they just, oh no, there it is. All right. So it's just getting 2,400. This is significant. 2,400 should equate to an extra 3 seconds on the buff, probably 4 seconds at 20 minutes, and then about an extra 2.5 seconds. Basically you deal 1,000 health a second when you're talking about 4 item builds going after Baron. So an extra 2 seconds does matter. Macro is a matter of seconds. So this is absolutely going to be an effect that is worthwhile. You're going to have to dot your I's and cross your T's if you want to take a Baron buff. This is a huge nerf to me. I'm going to say it. This sucks for me because this was one of our ways of coming back from doomed games, those so-called doomed games where we just sacked third dragon. We let them have third dragon, and we would go get Baron, and then we would push, and like maybe we get something because of the tremendous. Everyone on the team gets a half level, plus you get the 1,000 gold. Like this was such a tremendous swing to take Baron Nashor, and now it's a little bit harder. Also, there's going to be people who will be like, it's harder to take, we can't take it. You can still take it, but the combination of the more health, plus the fact that your jungler can't tank it for 20%, that is a big, big difference. Death timer changes. I wish that they would just make this flat. My idea, and you can copy it if you like it, level in game plus time in game. That should be your death timer. If you're level 1 and it's 1 minute into the game, boom, respawn in 2 seconds. If you're level 18 and it's 40 minutes into the game, 58-second death timer. That seems fair. Like, I don't think there's ways to abuse that at any different points. Instead, they're going to this flat thing. The big one to note is right here, 2 seconds off the timers, 4 seconds off at level 4. This is a buff to Scion. This is a buff to Karthus at early games where you have those like inting strategies that aren't very good, but the fact that you're back on the map 4 seconds faster is now the difference between missing 2 melees and not missing those melees. So if you can create an advantageous lane state and then come back to the game with these changes, that's pretty meaningful. Level 8 death timer, 21 seconds, level 9 at 26. I wonder if this pattern continues or if this is just meant for the early game, but basically getting everyone back on the map means you're going to have fewer of those moments where you get locked out, especially top lane where it's kind of solved. You're going to be able to get back there faster. Will this introduce new Babos FFS strats where you die for a lane state? Maybe. This is worth keeping an eye on, especially this level 4 one. The fact that you're back out 4 seconds, the fact that you don't lose any extra time dying at level 4 means that you might be able to go for these wave 5 super crashes, proxy the next wave on a champion like a Rammus or a Scion, and go in, especially Scion, who can just int, take that next one with the protection of wave 6 being a cannon. There's potential ways to break this. So we will let you know first. We will put out a video. Make sure to subscribe so that you can know, and also turn on notifications so that you know when we find that out. If we can break that, we will break the news for you. If there's a way to take advantage of proxy farming to create a very cheesy way to just get a guaranteed advantage in the early. Turret plating down by 50, again to affect this. Even less reason to stay and hover for your plates. This is one of the principal ways that people lose games. This is also a nerf to Rift Herald. So one of the principal ways that people would lose all their tempo is they would use their tempo for a plating. But if that plating wasn't the difference between you finishing an item and not finishing an item, it was never worth it. And even then, sometimes it was worth just get back quickly, get back to lane. Don't spend the extra 8 seconds, because when you spent the time to kill the plate, it also meant that you had to spend time to retreat, because you couldn't just sit there and recall onto turret. The other person would come to you. So it basically doubled the time investment. Now, boom, you get the push, you get the win. Let's say you get the kill, get the minions in, immediately recall. Just recall back, get back, so you can keep on pressing your advantage, come back, use your tempo for the next lead, and then you can build, and that's how you're going to create snowballs. Like I said, this is also a nerf to Rift Herald. Rift Herald already lost 100 gold. It just lost another 100, potentially another 150. So Rift Herald got nerfed by 200 to 250 gold. Very significant. That pit is going to be much worse. Bel'Veth, on top of the fact that these got worse, on top of the fact that her early game got nerfed, basically that probably washes all of our Bel'Veth strategies out. There's probably none there to be had. The only way that it'll become good is if the meta shifts so far away that she just gets free Rift Herald, then maybe this becomes worth. So you can get that mini army and get the push. But again, the Remora are so weak, they're going to die to everything. They'll be very good into champions like Shen, that you play into the Shen. Shen has no wave clear. He's got no way to kill the army. You can just push in. So maybe Bel'Veth becomes very good. But that said, Shen has an ability that completely counters Bel'Veth anyways. So some of this, some of that. Rune adjustments. While most of the changes we've talked about thus far target gold access, these adjustments target how effective gold is in the rune system. Let's check them all out. Attack damage per stack is going down. Good. This is less about level 1. All right, less about your level 1s. Ability power per stack, down. So maximums, down, down. All right, lethal tempo, stacks, down, down. All right, this is going to be huge for your base kit champions. If you have a stronger base kit, you no longer need to rely as much on these effects, and you can just use your base kit for its strength. Electrocute. I wouldn't be surprised to see the base numbers go up and the scaling go down, which is exactly what they did here. Up to 40 more, but they lose 75% of their scaling on these abilities for a little bit of base damage. Dark Harvest. Base damage goes up, plus 5%. I'm surprised I didn't give a little bit here. But again, losing a significant chunk. Arcane Comet, base damage up. Okay, so this is actually great for all of these. For your casters, early game, you're not going to get an effect as much. You're not going to get as much of those pops if you're like a Fizz endgame LeBlanc trying to pop Electrocute. But in that like level 3 to 6 window where you haven't necessarily bought your items and you just want this base damage, it goes up by a little bit. And it's going to affect Comet. This is actually one of the bigger ones. Well, no, you know what? It's still not going to outweigh. These are just all runes across the board are all getting worse. And it's making it so that gold is less valuable. There is less gold in the game. Less people can take jungle camps. The Rift Herald is worth less. The turrets are worth less. Games are going to be longer. This is what it is. And they want you to be able to come back into games. Everything about it is trying to take games out of the 15-minute and push it back into that 35. They like 30 to 35-minute games. Everything that they're doing here is clearly geared toward that. Airy, again, slight little chunks. Less of a chunk away from Airy. This is actually a pretty big deal that it's that much less compared to the other ones. Elite Footwork, getting a base amount, losing some of the scaling. First Strike, bonus true damage going down by 1. Notice, you know what's really important? Check out all the ones that weren't hit. Basically, this is a buff to every rune that's not on this page. Grasp of the Undying, huge buff. Huge. Right? You're no longer... The fact that Conqueror and Lethal Tempo can't just all in you at level 1 because you go for 1 Grasp proc. The fact that you can actually fight someone like a Jax with Lethal Tempo at level 1 used to just be able to run you down and, all right, I guess I'll just hit you. Use my Counter Strike. You can't hit me back. Sorry, Volleybear. You should be crushing me, but I can crush you instead. Because it's that much weaker, it's going to give you that much more play in the lanes. Grasp gets a huge buff. Phase gets a huge buff. Glacial Augment. That percent of damage, now that people take longer to get that extra buff as they go into the game, that all adds up. All right, so all of the runes not listed here, you can count them as getting buffed. Basically, they took out all the ones that have scaling. It looks like they took all the ones that have scaling. Also, it's things like Taste of Blood. It looks like Eyeball. Yeah, so the ones that you get kills are still going to scale just fine. Again, champions and kits that have good base kits are going to be much stronger. As a relative to this. This is very good for tanks. Tanks and supports have very good base kits. They don't necessarily need all the scaling. This is going to help them out in their laning phases especially. Press the attack, exposed damage, still 8% at level 1, but it goes down for later. ARAM, we don't care. You can check it out if you play that champion. Behavioral, ARAM and rotating, you can no longer use those for your 5 game restrictions. That's good because no one wanted it. Ping adjustments in this patch, we're continuing to fine tune. Guys, just make it 2 pings, 2 ping limit. That's all you need. Allied scoreboard pings are now sent to your pre-made party. This still doesn't help. Karthus, ult. That's an important one. Now, like, enter Karthus, which you can't necessarily do if you don't have chat on. You can't do it, and you have no way of pinging them. You have absolutely no way of telling your Karthus, if you play with chat off, that you want them to ult. You can't even say like, hey guys, look, our Malphite has 17 seconds on his cooldown. It's good for me to know that, but I want everyone on my team to know it. Just limit people to 2 pings so that they choose the ones that are important, they communicate, and then they can go forward. I don't know. For 10 seconds after getting a champion takedown, all allied scoreboard pings directed at your champion are visible to the... I hate this. This is my least favorite thing. Some people like the applause moment of like the question mark pings. It drives me nuts. It makes my brain hemorrhage To have 12 pings on your head, ding, 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 ding. Like, I don't want it. I don't care. I know I made a good play. The bait ping has been replaced with the enemy vision ping, and the hold ping has been replaced with the need vision ping. All right, these were the least used ones by far, but no, why? The vision cleared ping and the vision ping wheel have been removed. It's because people weren't using. Riot, I'm here. I have all your answers. I can be hired. Let me know. I'm in Connecticut. I'll work remotely. Just let me know what rates we'll go. I'll work on a seasonal thing. I'll just work a few hours a day, 9 to 3. Seasonal even. We can do it just to talk. I'll come in as a consultant. You can hire me. And we'll solve these problems. All right. We'll make these systems that you never have to deal with it. Thoughts? Let me know. Worlds Clash. Being played on the Not Worlds patch. Worlds is here. Yay. Get excited for Worlds. Don't play on the patch, though. We're going to completely change the game so you're not even close to the same game that they're playing on. First weekend of Worlds Clash will be open starting October 9th, and tournaments will be held on October 14th and 15th. If you guys want to play, I'll do a special rate for anyone that wants to get their teams together. In fact, you know what? If it's your first time in, just come by. You guys have made it so far into this video, which has turned out into be an extravagantly long video. If you have a team, come to me. I will give you a free coaching session, 2 hours long, your whole team. We can talk about how to maximize your team's ability to have fun, enjoy, maximize potential strategy, and have some fun and win Clash. In addition to the trophy banner and logo rewards of the other Clash tournaments, Worlds Clash has an additional loot capsule as a reward. Since Rewards Clash is 16 team bracket instead of 8, you also need to fix the fact that 1 and out is affecting everybody. You should switch it to Swiss style. I mean, it is Swiss style, but you should give more prizes meaningful to everybody who plays out the whole bracket. Or penalize teams for leaving. I don't know. They kind of do that anyways because the prizes are so bad. Check it out. Figure it out whether or not you think it's worth it. What do you guys think? Is this enough prizes to actually be worth it? It looks like there's some pretty cool ward skins. The XP boost most people don't really care about, but 0-3 maybe they need it. 3 wins, 1 loss, 2 wins, 2 loss. These are the big brackets where you feel like you need to get it. The basic and the premiums have all gone up, so check them out. The Mythic Shop rotation. We're going to get Prestige Star Guardian Syndra. We're also going to get Ocean Song Seraphine. That's a good one. For me, Prestige Darkstar Malphite I think is a fantastic skin. You should check it out. And we have Porcelain Lux and Neo Pax Jax, which you need to, I believe you need to have Pax Jax. No, if you have Pax Jax, they just give this to you for free. This means you'll be able to get Pax Jax if you weren't able to. If you don't remember, this was the first like scammable and not pay to win, but people were spending $100 on this skin. It was the original clout skin. Like, hey, look, I've got this skin. I either spent money or I was at PAX, whatever it was. And we're going to be missing out on some of these, so take a look. They usually give us an extra day to check those out. Hey, fixed a bug that caused Kraken Slayer and Stormrazor to ignore Shen's W. There are so many bugs with Shen W that Xpetu, probably the most famous Shen 1 trick, has boycotted the champion. And not just that, but has called for everybody to boycott Shen because there's enough bugs with this ability. Plus, they've taken away all his ability to fight lanes, and he is just a top lane support. Yeah, there's absolutely no agency, but I'm glad that they're taking note of one of them. There's still other things, like sometimes you're getting the spell effects like some big ones like Press the Attack, like Spellblade. They're still hitting you even though you weren't getting hit. You're supposed to ignore all the effects, and yet they were going to get big life steals or grass procs or whatever it was. They took it. Fixed a bug that caused Aatrox's movement speed buff VFX would disappear premature. All right. Caused scoreboard desync. I mean, check out the bugs, see if your champion's on here. Normally there's not going to be huge ones. We see Jax, Vayne not properly displaying VFX. Most of these look like they're VFX. Fixed a bug where Invictus Gaming Rakan would snap back to his idle position when it was activated during his recall. That's so bizarre. I mean, some people would maybe try to exploit it. Here's everyone's favorite redeemed Star Guardian Rakan and Xayah. They did say that they're no longer going to have their like entangled like kissing animation per things. I don't know why they said they had to get rid of that. But the embraces are gone, and then the big fights over Coven. Coven Elise makes sense. Akali makes sense. Nami is getting the legendary skin, I believe. Prestige, Coven, Akali. I believe they said this is the legendary, but the Syndra mains are the ones who are pissed about it. You'll notice it's not on this. It's going to come out later. Here's the Neo Pax Jax coming out with the rework and some chromas to go along with everything. So thanks, guys. I know this was a super long patch rundown. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure that you like and subscribe, turn on those notifications so that you can see, especially we're looking at those inting strats, the boss special, using level 4 to your advantage, completely overhauled jungle timers, completely overhauled blabber special passing through mid. The amount in the gold in the game and the effectiveness in the gold is going way down, which means that base champion kits are going up. So everyone that has just a very strong kit is going to be much better. It's also going to allow tanks to be stronger for later, and anyone who's good on low economy. So that's that. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll catch you guys next time. Keep it surreal.